Warning, this video is a review of the Zone of the Enders HD collection of the first Zone of the Enders game. No clips, music, or sounds from the game are used in the purpose of this review. Thank you, and remember, this is an opinion. Respect it. Okay? Good. Enjoy the show. Welcome to a two-part Kadic reviews. Now, 2 episodes, mind you. This one is about the first Zone of the Enders, a game made from one Hideo Kojima. He is a mad genius. Most people know him because of the Metal Gear games. Although that is appropriate, he did have another series of games made first in 2001 and then back in 2004 called Zone of the Enders, a robot high-speed action game, unlike any at the time that people had ever seen. Recently, the two Zone of the Enders games were re-released as part of an HD collection for the PlayStation 3 and Xbox. This review is of the first, and the reason I'm dividing the two games into two reviews is to give both games equal time. So, let's get started. Bird Zone of the Enders was made in 2001 and was one of the very first titles for the then infant PlayStation 2. And it's still very much in HD, looks like a PlayStation 2 game, even taking the anime graphics style made famous from the Digimon World games, as well as games like Dragon Ball Z Budokai. Now, the game is an action game where you play as a young child named Leo, who is caught between this war between the Earth Space Force and a militia group known as Balrog. Of course, the setting is in the 2140s. In this game in particular, we're going all the way to 2142. The fight is over two orbital frames. Orbital frames are just a big fancy term for mech. One named Anubis and one named Jeopardy. And yes, a lot of people mispronounce Jeopardy, saying Djibouti game trailers and others, but it's Jeopardy. Leo accidentally finds his way into Djibouti after seeing his friends get crushed to death by one of Barham's high-ranking generals, Viola. And the game starts in earnest with you piloting Jeopardy, getting help by Jeopardy's onboard computer AI named Ada. Now, the graphics, they're not going to win any parade of winning awards. They didn't in 2001, and they most certainly aren't here in HD. Now, the HD games are prepped to run at 720 high definition sets, no 1080 here. But you can tell in the first Zone of the Enders, it's not graphically impressive. Where the game really shines is in its storyline, its anti-linear gameplay. and of course in the way it controls. Controls are simple enough. There's a button to ascend and a button to descend. You're constantly hovering around the space. And you essentially have three you essentially have two attack buttons and a bunch of varying sub-weapons that you'll pick up over the course of the game. Now, the game structure is linear, but there's a catch. You see, there are several locations throughout the game that you can fly to and fly back to at will, almost like an open-ended game, or almost like a Mega Man game, where you get to choose your own stages and whatnot. But there is a specific order in which you have to do these sections. Now, of course, if you're playing this game on the highest difficulty, it can get difficult at times, but if you're more casual, or you just want to experience the story in full, the easiest AI is exactly that. It's pretty much a breeze, with two choke points coming out in particular. A choke point in which you have to control one of the unmanned mechs called a rafter, and another where a virus has infiltrated Javelin and you must find its antivirus. I will admit, even for the purpose of this review, I had to rely on some YouTube Let's Plays to get me through the choke points in order to finish the game. Worse yet, the solutions are very simple and easy to spot, but because of the game's vague explanations by Ada and even your objective screen being so vague, you'll find yourself hunting around back and forth through areas wondering where's that one thing you missed before actually picking it up. It can add some unnecessary hours to what would otherwise be a one-sitting trip. Story is done really well, and mind you, the voice acting won't win any awards, and there are a few lines of dialogue that are lost in translation, but the point is pretty well served, and it builds it builds a great storyline for why the two mechs of Jeopardy and Anubis exist, and it also builds on Leo's character, being a young kid thrust into a situation that he doesn't otherwise want to be in. This causes a lot of conflict between the Space Force, who just wants you to retrieve Jeopardy back to them, and the young psyche of a young child of war. Yeah, there are some sections where you do have to save innocent civilians, and that can, in fact, the ending. In fact, there are two endings to the game based on how you handle those civilian missions, but they're pretty easily explained, and it's pretty much destroy everything on screen. Musically, it's a kind of techno thing going for it, which kind of works, but the music isn't going to win any awards at all anyway. But the beginning and ending themes that are genuine Japanese tracks are not are nice to hear on occasion. And the game does start out as though you're watching an anime. The reason this game sold back in 2001 was because it had a Metal Gear Solid 2 demo in it. Back when Metal Gear Solid 2 was new and people didn't massively disrespect the right, but the game sold enough to justify a follow-up, and it is understandable. The linear yet not linear gameplay style is unique, and the controls do respond well no matter what console you're playing on. PS2, PS3, or for the first time on Xbox through its HD collection. Frame rate runs well, and there are no technical problems with the first game. It is a surprisingly quick game, although there are slow sections, and the boss fights are big and massive, but nothing that will get too far in your way. This game isn't perfect, and even in HD, it shows. Not even a graphical uptouch could make this game better. Zone of the Enders 1 is what it is, and it still shows. Credit for Konami for giving out a perfect port of this game. It's just too bad there isn't more than what is already here. I give the first Zone of the Enders a 7 out of the possible 10. But where does that leave its more widely known and, quite frankly, more respected sequel? We'll have to tune in to the next Kadic reviews to see that, as I delve into a review of Zone of the Enders, the second runner, HD of course. Until then, live life by the code.